Sri Bhagavat, the author of the book and the audio album Don't Delay Enlightenment, has been an ardent spiritual aspirant right from his age of 18. After strenuous seeking in the domain of spirituality, he suddenly attained enlightenment one day when he was 58. However, he did not turn ecstatic, but was perplexed as to why it took 40 years for him to attain enlightenment, which is attainable just within seconds. So he took a vow to get the humanity a perfect understanding of the human mind and thereby attain enlightenment within seconds. Hence the book and the audio album Don't Delay Enlightenment. First chapter, Don't Delay Enlightenment. Enlightenment is regarded as the highest state in the spiritual field. Every spiritual aspirant longs to attain enlightenment, but how long should one practice to attain enlightenment? 10 years? 12 years? 20 years? Or lifelong? There is a spiritual story of King Janaka. It is said that once King Janaka was listening to the lessons of Vedantic scriptures. In a scripture it was said that one can attain enlightenment within the time while fixing one leg on one side of the saddle and mounting the horse. In short, it has been said that one can get enlightenment just within seconds. Is it true? Janaka also asked the same question to his teacher who taught the Vedantic scriptures. But unfortunately, the teacher was not an enlightened one, so he was unable to clear the doubt of the king. The king was very much eager to verify the truth of the sayings of the scripture. He asked every such teacher to explain the truth of the sayings, but nobody could explain except Saint Ashtavakra. He taught Janaka and made him realize the truth. Thereby, Janaka understood that one can attain enlightenment within seconds. He understood the truth by attaining enlightenment within seconds by himself. Thus, King Janaka proved that one can attain enlightenment within seconds. Is it possible for us also to attain it as in the case of the king, as described in the Vedantic scriptures? J. Krishnamurti used to say the same thing during his earlier talks. You are planting a seedling of grape. You water it, nurture it, and maintain it. The grape plant grows, and after a certain period of time, it gives grapefruits, but it takes time. You have to wait for the fruit. But what I am telling you is something totally different. I ask you to come with the grape seeds, and at the end of my hour-long talk, you may return home with grapefruits. It needs no time to produce fruits. You may get enlightenment instantaneously. J.K. used to talk like that during that period, but in his later talks, he said differently. I have been talking to you for over 6 decades. You are also listening to me for years, but you have not changed. Where has the mistake occurred? Who is responsible for that? J.K. was sure that no time is required for the change for the enlightenment, and so he asked where the mistake occurred. We are practicing so many spiritual methods for years together. Nevertheless, the enlightenment is evading us. Why? We are sincere in our practice. We are very earnest, but still the enlightenment is evading us. Why? If it were true that one can attain enlightenment within seconds, then why are we not getting it so far? In fact, the Vedantic statement is true. It is not false. We are belating our enlightenment only because of our wrong approach to it. Why is our approach so wrong? Are we not practicing it on the instructions of noble persons? Are they not reliable persons? Are their instructions wrong? The noble persons are correct to a certain extent. Their instructions are very powerful. Those are very much useful to the spiritual aspirants. It is no doubt that they provide great progress with an aspirant in the spiritual field. But they help an aspirant only to a certain extent. They prepare one fit for enlightenment. All practices give us some state of experiences. The experiences may be heavenly and marvelous, but enlightenment does not occur as an experience, because the enlightenment is not an experience at all. All experiences last for a certain period. It is the nature of all experiences. They come to a spiritual aspirant and last for a certain period. Then they fade away as they come. But it is not so in the case of enlightenment. Enlightenment, when it comes once, does not go away. It lasts forever. If anyone gets enlightenment, he needs no practice to retain it. It is the nature of enlightenment. Is there any special practice for enlightenment then? No practice will take one to enlightenment. All practices result only in various gorgeous experiences. There is no casual connection between enlightenment and spiritual practice. Then what is the way for enlightenment if practice is not the way? It comes only by way of understanding. We have to understand what enlightenment is and what the obstacles are for enlightenment. Mere understanding of what enlightenment is itself brings enlightenment. Understanding the truth of enlightenment itself acts and brings enlightenment instantaneously. If one understands what enlightenment is, the matter is over. He does not need any practice on the idea obtained through the understanding. The understanding itself is action. We cannot separate action from understanding. What is the true nature of such understanding? Is it possible only for a matured mind or only for wise people? Does it need great intelligence? No. Anybody can have the understanding. It is very simple. The intelligence needed for understanding an ordinary storybook is enough for this kind of understanding too. Such kind of ordinary intelligence is enough for this understanding also. Now, what is understanding? What is the nature of this understanding which brings enlightenment? Is it intellectual or practical? For example, I ask about your house and the way to it. You explain the way to your house, the street, the location, and the appearance of your house. Thereby, I get an idea about your house and the way to it. It is only an intellectual idea about your house. Then, I physically go to your house and practically know your house, the structure, the location, and the way to it. First, I get an intellectual idea about your house. Later, after my personal visit to it, I get a practical and actual knowledge about your house. Intellectual knowledge is different from practical and actual knowledge. Intellectual knowledge is imaginary, but practical knowledge is realistic. Is it so in the case of understanding, the understanding which brings enlightenment? No, it is not so. In the matter of understanding which brings enlightenment, there is no such distinction between intellectual understanding and practical understanding. In the case of reaching the house, there is intellectual understanding of the house. Thereafter, we get practical and actual understanding. Intellectual understanding comes first, and afterwards comes actual understanding. It is so in the case of worldly activities. But it is not so in the case of enlightenment. There is no difference between intellectual and actual understanding. It is only intellectual, out and out intellectual. The intellectual clarity is enough for enlightenment. We need not try to make the intellectual clarity into actual clarity. There is no such actual clarity apart from intellectual clarity. We need not expect anything more than the intellectual clarity. We have a lot of false ideas about enlightenment. That is why we are belating enlightenment. It is enough if we have a correct idea of what enlightenment is. The very intellectual idea of what enlightenment is itself blossoms as enlightenment. Please take the example of a schoolboy who works out his mathematical sum. The working out of his sum is totally intellectual. He solves the sum only through an intellectual process. Similarly, the understanding of the nature of enlightenment is also purely intellectual. The enlightenment that happened to Buddha is regarded as a rare and a great one. But it happened in seconds under the Bodhi tree. It is not an ordinary enlightenment. Even today, it is considered to be extraordinary. Really, it is extraordinary. Because after that, one does not have any doubt about anything. He gets all his doubts cleared. One becomes a light for oneself. But this extraordinary enlightenment is an ordinary one, because you and I can attain the same very easily and just within seconds. We need not confuse ourselves whether it is possible for us to attain the state of Buddha within the span of our life or not. It is possible, and possible in seconds. If we know what is meant by enlightenment, the very knowledge of what enlightenment is itself will be enough to attain enlightenment. We have read many things about enlightenment. We take ourselves to be this body and mind, but we are not so. We are something else, something more. We are really the Atman, the Holy Spirit, beyond body and mind. Atman is the base of our body and mind. Since we have our mind functioning outwardly, we think that we are mere body and mind. Therefore, we do not have any idea or knowledge about Atman, that is ourselves. If we are able to divert our attention inwardly towards ourselves, into the root of ourselves, we may be able to realize our real being, the Atman, that is ourselves. It is enlightenment if one could know oneself as Atman. This is jnana. So, understanding our real nature is enlightenment. The spiritual texts are saying like this: we are dreaming in our sleep. In the dream, for example, we are caught in a danger along with our friends. We have to escape from the danger. At this instance, someone is knocking at our door. At once we wake up from sleep, and the dream also ends there. We come to realize that we are not in danger and have no necessity to do anything to our friends. We know that we are safely lying in bed in a protected room. In the same way, the Atman is always safe and pure. It is only in a dream-like state we feel that we are in danger. This is how the spiritual books describe the role and place of Atman. It is obvious from these books that the Atman is pure and self-illuminating without any ignorance. By this description, we may presume something about Atman and its purity, but it does not give us enlightenment, because enlightenment is totally different. One can get enlightenment if one knows what enlightenment is. The very knowledge of what enlightenment is itself brings enlightenment. So, please, for the time being, do not rely upon the descriptions of the scriptures about what enlightenment is. We feel that we are ordinary human beings with all our bad and good qualities of mind. So, naturally we feel that we cannot attain enlightenment until we are free from our bad qualities of mind. We think that we can get enlightenment only after the purification of our heart and mind. So we struggle for the purification of our heart and mind. It is said that Buddha himself did so many meditational practices, undertaking so many penances, following as many austerities. Only after that, and after the purification of heart and mind, it is said he attained enlightenment. But in truth, neither the quality of the mind nor the quality of the heart prevents our enlightenment. It is our conclusions that they are blocking our enlightenment. Conclusions? Yes, our conclusions are the only obstacles for our enlightenment. How? We already have some idea about what enlightenment is. Not only that, we also have so many ideas about various things. For example, we are having an idea about what good is and what bad is. We are having ideas about various meditations and their effects, life, death, life after death, sin, karma, and so on. In the same way, we have various ideas revealed by many spiritual heads and enlightened persons. Our ideas about all of them altogether formulated our conclusions, and we feel that our conclusions are correct. Unless we are free from our conclusions, we cannot take any new step. As all our conclusions are only intellectual, it is not difficult for us to free ourselves from them. If we clutch our conclusions adamantly, we can never extricate ourselves from them. If we are not so much adamant with our conclusions, there are some possibilities for the liquidation and the rearrangement of conclusions. We must be somewhat liberal, lenient, and open to our conclusions so that we can entertain and understand new ideas. Enlightenment itself is an intellectual process. This fact itself also cannot be accepted by many people because they have some other idea about enlightenment. So it will be difficult for them to accept the fact that Enlightenment itself comes within the intellectual field. At present, we need not confuse ourselves with this kind of statement. We are going to deal with this fact in detail later. Now, let us know about our basic needs. Are there any prerequisites for the understanding which bring enlightenment? Yes, there are some prerequisites for the understanding of enlightenment. They are: 1. The spiritual aspirant must have some interest and earnestness in the spiritual life. It is not necessary that he must have done so many hard meditational practices. 2. He must have some familiarity with the ordinary books available in the spiritual field. It is not necessary he must have mastered all the spiritual literatures. It means that he must have some basic knowledge in this field. 3. He must have an open mind to accept reasonable ideas. He should not be adamant with his conclusions and ideas that he already has got in his mind. 4. He should not entertain the pessimistic idea that he cannot attain enlightenment in this span of his life. If one has the above said ordinary, simple and reasonable prerequisites, he can easily attain enlightenment and liberation just within seconds. Since such enlightenment involves no practice, the question of time does not arise at all. Time is necessary only for practice and effort. Practice and effort will give us some experiences alone. The experiences may be noble and marvelous, but they will not give us enlightenment. Here we do not require to do or have any such thing for enlightenment. What is required is to have an intellectual understanding of what enlightenment is. So we need not delay ourselves for our enlightenment. We can get enlightenment within seconds if we are open. Second chapter, the consciousness. Before we know what enlightenment is, let us know what mind is and what consciousness is. The mind may be classified for our convenience as follows: 1. The conscious mind, 2. The subconscious mind, and 3. The deeper conscious mind. First of all, let us know what a conscious mind is. By the word conscious mind, we mean our day-to-day feelings and experiences. From the time we wake up from bed until we retire to bed, we pass through so many experiences by our body and mind. For example, we meet joy, sadness, anger, fear, hatred, love, or boredom. We feel those experiences in our day-to-day life. We are conscious of our experiences. The mind which is conscious of our experiences is called conscious mind. But subconscious mind is somewhat different. Subconscious mind is the storehouse of our mental attitude. But we cannot know the structure of our subconscious mind directly. We may come across and go through many experiences in our life. All those experiences that we have gone through are recorded in our mind as our knowledge. We might have read many books on various subjects and have reached so many conclusions about various aspects of our life. All those things are stored in our subconscious mind. We might have inherited many things from our parents through genetic factors. All those things are recorded in our subconscious mind. Our character, our belief, expectations, interests, likes and dislikes, fears, longings, all are recorded in our subconscious mind. We cannot know the nature and structure of our subconscious mind directly, but all our conscious experiences that we are experiencing are coming from our subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is our storehouse. It produces conscious experiences according to the circumstances where they are placed. We cannot directly look into the mental storehouse. We can experience only the consciousness that comes from the storehouse, the subconscious mind. For example, if we meet our friends on our way to our office, we feel happy. The happiness comes away from our subconscious mind. In the same way, if we meet some person whom we do not like, we experience hatred in our mind. It emerges from our subconscious mind. So, consciousness is the byproduct of our subconscious mind. Thus, we know what we do mean by the terms conscious mind and subconscious mind. Now, let us see what the deeper conscious mind is. It is enough if we take it as a secret place in our mind, in the deeper part of the mind. There are various schools of yogic practices in the spiritual field. By way of such yogic practices, one can enter into the secret chamber of the mind. In other words, one can vibrate or activate some aspects within the deeper conscious mind. Thereby, some people may get some occult powers, and a few others may get some spiritual experiences like trance or a feeling of spiritual excitement. There are many systems of meditation by which one can derive all those things. If one works hard on various levels, it is sure that one can attain something or the other. It is his hard, sincere and systematic work that will produce positive and desirable results from the deeper conscious mind. Our deeper conscious mind is the secret chamber in our mind wherein lies the secret treasure. Now let us know what consciousness is. We have already known what conscious mind is, what subconscious mind is, and what deeper conscious mind is. Now, what do we mean by the word consciousness? Consciousness may very well be considered as conscious mind. What we actually and consciously be aware of is consciousness. We are aware that we have sorrow. We are aware that we have happiness. This conscious feeling is known as consciousness. Now let us analyze what do we mean by physical consciousness and mental consciousness. What do we mean by this classification? For example, I touch the flame of fire by my hand and immediately I get the burning sensation in my hand. I feel it through my body. This is physical feeling. Suppose I meet a financial loss in my business. It causes me great mental agony. I feel the pain of my sorrow. This is the feeling felt by me by the mind. This mental feeling cannot be touched by my hand or any other limbs. This is mental feeling or mental consciousness. So, the consciousness can be classified as physical consciousness and mental consciousness. Thereby, the contact of a physical thing through our physical organs creates the physical consciousness. At the same time, the mental attitudes create mental consciousness. Now, let us proceed towards a new dimension. We are aware of our conscious mind, but can we be aware of our subconscious mind? We have already known that we cannot directly be aware of our subconscious mind and that we can be aware of only the consciousness produced by the subconscious mind. So, we can be aware of the subconscious mind only when it comes into the field of consciousness. Now, is it possible for us to be aware of the deeper conscious mind? It is the same as in the case of subconscious mind. We cannot be aware of our deeper conscious mind directly. We can know it only when it produces anything in the field of consciousness. So, we know only our consciousness. We are aware of our consciousness. It may be produced either by our subconscious mind or by our deeper conscious mind. It does not matter. What we know is only our consciousness, only our conscious mind. Now, once again, let us return to our earlier discussions as to where we have classified our consciousness into physical consciousness and mental consciousness. What is mental consciousness? We have seen that sorrow is a mental feeling, a feeling of pain. In the same way, we feel happiness mentally. We feel calmness, hatred, love and affection mentally. What is the nature of this feeling? Which is the sense by which we are feeling these mental feelings? Is there any special sense by which we feel those feelings? Physical feelings are felt by physical senses. How do we feel our mental feelings? Is there any special sense for feeling our mental feelings? What is happening when we feel the mental feelings? Each one of our mental feelings causes a chemical change in the nervous system of our body. Our fears cause a chemical change in the nervous system of our body. Our sorrow causes a chemical change in the same way. Our happiness too causes a chemical change in the nervous system of our body. Thus, all our mental feelings cause a chemical change in our body. They cause chemical changes in the nervous system of our body. Thus, all our mental feelings cause a chemical change in our body. The chemical change varies according to the quality of feelings we experience. In other words, all our mental feelings are expressed as physical feelings. We do not feel the mental feelings directly. We feel only the bodily expression of our mental feelings. We feel only the chemical change in the nervous system of our body caused by the mental feelings. So, the feelings known as mental are actually physical feelings. So, all our feelings are basically physical feelings only. Even though we have named them as mental feelings, really they are physical feelings only. Any mental feeling that does not cause any chemical change in our body is not a feeling at all. Even an ordinary thought causes a feeling of vibration in the nervous system of our body. If we want to designate anything as a feeling, it must have a bodily expression. Otherwise, it cannot be called as a feeling. So, there is no basic difference between physical consciousness and mental consciousness. The conscious mind can very well be considered as body consciousness because we feel the conscious mind only as body consciousness. In the same way, we cannot directly experience our subconscious mind and the deeper conscious mind. We experience them as our physical consciousness. If we want to experience anything, it must express itself as physical consciousness only. We know our deeper conscious mind only through its physical expression in our body. Our body includes our physical brain and the connecting nervous system. If we want to feel anything, it can only be done through our body. In the same way, if we want to recognize or know anything, it must be done only through our mind. Now, what is the relationship between enlightenment and consciousness? There are so many yogic practices and meditation techniques in the spiritual field. If one sincerely follows and does the spiritual practices, he can get marvelous experiences. Such experiences cannot be experienced by any ordinary mind. Out of sincere practice alone, one can get such kind of marvelous experiences. There are a lot of experiences in the spiritual field, but such experiences do not last for a long period. It happens and lasts for days, and in certain cases, lasts for months. But anyhow, it has to fade away as it comes. During the period of such experiences, we may feel ourselves to be divine and we may feel ourselves to be free from mental worries. When the experiences are over, we may think that if the experiences were with us permanently, we may take it to be enlightenment. We know the quality of those experiences because we ourselves have experienced. We feel that they are very exciting and satisfactory. During the course of such experiences, we cannot hate anybody. There is love and nothing but love. It is such a lovely experience, and if it lasts forever, everything is over. We want nothing more. All our actions would be vibrating with life and spirit, with least scope for any monotony. But unfortunately, it does not last very long. So, we do much more meditation and yogic practices to retain it. It is very natural for everyone to presume that if such kind of experience can be retained permanently, then it would be the state of enlightenment. It is not because every reasonable person can come to this conclusion. But unfortunately, enlightenment is not so. The enlightenment is not a state of experience. We have already known that all our feelings are in our body level and that all our conscious experiences are happening within the area of our body. The spiritual experiences, however marvelous, they are only physical experiences. The secret chamber of our deeper conscious mind is opened through our spiritual practices, and from there arise so many spiritual experiences in our body. They activate the nervous system of our body, and thereby we experience such kind of marvelous experiences. Even though they may come from the secret chamber of our mind, we experience them only in our body. Thereafter, it fades away as it comes. It leaves a pleasant memory of our experiences, and we want to have it again through our practice. So, we engage ourselves in the spiritual practices, neglecting all our worldly duties. Do we know the signs of our body in our various physical experiences? The body itself has great intelligence of its own. It functions according to its intelligence. There is also a science for the function of our body in the field of spiritual experiences. Even though those experiences are spiritual, they are only and basically bodily experiences. They are the experiences in the nervous system of our body. Marvelous spiritual experiences can be attained so easily during the earlier period of our spiritual practices. But it will take time if we want to have it again. So we try hard and hard in our meditational practices to regain the spiritual experiences. Have you ever noticed the above fact? Okay, let us take an example. Suppose I get your house address and reach your house with the help of the given address. It would be somewhat difficult if I go to your house for the first time, because I had to inquire others about the way to the house. But it would be easy for the second time to reach your house, because I have better knowledge about your house. I need not ask anybody else about the way to your house. I myself know about the way to your house. But it is not so in the case of spiritual experiences. During the first time of our spiritual practice, we do not have any clear idea about spiritual experiences. But at the same time, we can very easily get some marvelous spiritual experiences. But it is not so easy to get it again for the second time. Even though we get it again, the quality of such experience will not be so rich as in the case of first instance. Why? Would it not be easy for the second and successive times? As we have been successful in the first instance, why is it not so easy to have the same success for the second time also? The regaining of those experiences itself is so difficult. The repetition of such experience itself is difficult. But we believe that we can get those exciting experiences forever. We do not know the science of our physical experiences. Our body is designed to have limited physical experiences. It has some capacity. It can experience anything to a limit. We cannot force it to experience anything beyond its capacity. If we force it beyond the limit, it will break down to pieces. If we enjoy more and more of the spiritual experiences, it will affect our body. To have the exciting spiritual experience forever is to invite bodily disorder. But our body has intelligence of its own, so it always rejects the repeated experiences. So we have to be careful about various kinds of spiritual experiences. It is no doubt there are certain special practices by which one can maintain one's physical health. But it is an exception to the general rule. It is good to have spiritual experiences, but at the same time, the demand for hour is the way for destruction. Everything must have a limit. The enlightenment is not an experience. most of the spiritual aspirants wait for enlightenment as an everlasting divine experience. They expect their enlightenment in the field of experience, and that is why they have not attained enlightenment so far. So, this is our first step towards enlightenment. Enlightenment does not come through the way of our experiences. We have to understand this fact for ourselves. Third chapter, the inner war. Another thing we have to understand is the function of our mind, especially in the game of pleasure and pain. The game of pleasure and pain takes a major role in our daily life. Suppose I meet with a heavy financial loss in my business. It gives me a great mental agony. Someone in my family gets an incurable disease. It causes me a great mental agony. The reasons for my mental agony may be different, but the mental agony is the same. The cause may be different, but the mental experience is the same. Suppose I regain my property that I had lost. It gives me a great mental pleasure. Somebody appreciates my work. It gives me a great mental pleasure. In the same way, if my family member gets cured of the incurable disease, it causes a great mental pleasure. The reasons for my mental pleasure is different, but the mental pleasure is one and the same. The unpleasant situation causes agony to us. The pleasant situation causes pleasure in our mind. It is natural. Our mind is so arranged to produce such kind of feelings. If anybody gets pleasure on the loss of one's properties, it is abnormal. It is normal only if he becomes sad. So, an average person will have the same feeling of pleasure and pain in a given situation. That is the normal function of the mind. Suppose someone has lost all his properties and there is no chance to regain it. He cannot rectify the situation. The situation causes him great mental agony. He suffers a lot with his mental agony. He cannot get any relief from his mental agony. The mental agony is also painful. What can he do with his mental agony? It is the nature of mind to produce mental agony. Everybody will have the same agony if put to that situation. It is the nature of the situation and it is the nature of the mind. There is no doubt about it. But are we prepared to accept the nature of our mind? Even though it is the nature of our mind, we cannot accept the pain of our mind. We want relief from our pain. We want mental peace. Otherwise, we would become mad. Our subconscious mind, as we have already seen, is the cause of our experiences. When we are put to a situation, our subconscious mind responds according to the situation. All such responses produced by our subconscious mind are expressed as conscious experience. So, what we experience as our mental agony is the expression made by our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is our mental structure. So, we cannot but produce the experiences according to the nature of our subconscious mind. We cannot directly control our subconscious mind. So, the expression from our subconscious mind is automatic. We cannot order what kind of feelings and experiences it should produce. It will act according to the circumstances it faces. Our conscious desires and longings will not be heard by the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is not within the reach of our conscious mind. We may have unpleasant feeling upon our agony produced by our subconscious mind. Our conscious unpleasant feeling will not reach the subconscious mind. We may try to control the function of the subconscious mind, but we cannot control it. The conscious mind has only a very limited power over the subconscious mind. For example, we are put in an unpleasant situation. We get angry with someone else. Our anger is the expression of our subconscious mind, so we become angry with someone else. Even though we feel angry with that person, we will be unable to express our anger upon him if he is our superior officer. So, we cannot show our anger outwardly. Though we are angry with him, we control our anger within ourselves. We can reduce our conscious expression to a certain extent, but the conscious mind cannot have any control over the subconscious mind. It cannot order the subconscious mind not to produce anger. It will not hear the voice of the conscious mind. It will produce anger in the given situation. But our conscious mind will not accept the truth. It always tries to control the subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is willing to lead a perfect life. We want to be a perfect human being. We want perfection in every aspect of our life. So, we want to shape ourselves in accordance with our theory about perfection. We want perfection in our words and deeds. We want perfect mind and perfect thought. We know what perfection is. We have our own theory for our perfection. We have formulated it according to the vision of noble men and spiritual scriptures. Thereby we feel that love is good, forgiveness is good, patience is good, hatred is bad, revenge is bad, and envy is bad. In the same way, we have a long list of what is good and what is bad. Our conscious mind always strives for the maintenance of good and the removal of bad. But however we may try, our effort will not reach the subconscious mind directly. Our subconscious mind functions as it has been made in its depth. Our subconscious mind may have the mixture of good and bad qualities. It will express the quality of such feeling according to the circumstances in which it is placed. Our subconscious mind has no theory of perfection of its own. It is only a storehouse. Everything is there. It functions as a machine, as a robot. It will not follow the theory of perfection which the conscious mind is maintaining. Everybody wants to be free from anger and hatred. But anger and hatred come out without one's willingness. Everybody wants peace of mind, but against one's will, there arise anxiety and worry. Our subconscious mind is designed like that. The content of the subconscious mind flows into the conscious mind according to the situation it faces. Our subconscious mind responds to the situation, producing the experiences what it feels necessary. it will not consult the conscious mind before producing the feelings. It expresses all its feelings according to the nature of its own. Its nature may be to produce sorrow. Its nature may be to produce fear. It functions according to its nature. But when we have the theory of perfection in our conscious mind, we feel the situation unpleasant because I become sorrow against my will. So I do not like the sorrow. So I am against my own feelings. So the conscious mind is always in war with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind produces something and the conscious mind wants to alter it. The struggle becomes a routine affair. What is one to do in this situation? I am angry upon the negligent act of my neighbor. I think, according to my theory, that anger is bad. I do not want to have anger even at the wrongdoings of others. If the neighbor, for example, asks forgiveness for his negligent act, we are at once free from our anger. When the situation changes, the feeling produced by our subconscious mind also changes. But is it possible for us to change the situation every time so that we can be free of our bad feelings? Is it right if one says, I am a good-natured man, if the situation is favorable? Don't think I am behaving bad. I would behave like a gentleman if the situation is acceptable. Is it right if one says like this? But this is the normal way of our life in the world. Our question is different. Can we be perfect at all times even if the situation does not change? The situations will be of various kinds. We cannot arrange them in accordance with our will. Each and every situation will arise out of the happenings of a chain of events. We cannot shape it according to our will. We can take control over certain things, but most of the things are beyond our reach and control. So, can we have our conscious mind and subconscious mind in perfect order without changing the situation? We have to bring order between the conscious and the subconscious minds. How can we pacify the conflict between the conscious and subconscious minds? Can we change the structure and nature of the subconscious mind? You and I cannot change the nature of the subconscious mind because we do not know the content of the subconscious mind. We can identify the nature of its content only when it comes as conscious experience. It is one-way traffic. The subconscious mind alone can use the way to the consciousness, but the consciousness cannot enter in that way to the subconscious mind. So, we cannot change the nature of our subconscious mind. The only thing left with us is our conscious mind. The conscious mind is our day-to-day mind. We can consciously think out the problem and our situation. We ourselves are consciousness. We are nothing but consciousness. Consciousness is ourselves and we ourselves are consciousness. So, we can think for ourselves and act for ourselves. We do our daily activities with the help of our conscious mind. In other words, the conscious mind does the daily activities. Even from a schoolboy to a greatest scientist, all do their work with a conscious mind. The functional mind is the conscious mind. It does everything in the world. It plans everything and does everything. Day by day, the capacity of the conscious mind increases. It goes up to an enormous extent in the field of science. In the same way, it tries to have control over the subconscious mind. Even though it fails in its attempts, it always tries. It wants to have control over the subconscious mind and control over the feelings of the subconscious mind. In this situation, many noble men render their help to us. They offer us various religious and spiritual practices. There are numerous practices in the spiritual field. No doubt they are powerful. The spiritual practices provide us with a great help to maintain the relationship between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Even though we cannot obtain a complete compromise between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, those practices give us basic needs for success. Even though the spiritual practices help us to a great extent, they have some limitations. When we are doing our spiritual practices, the relationship between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is brought under control. But the situation will not last long. Moreover, we cannot have spiritual practice at all times without any break. For example, when a person is worshipping God or singing bhajans, he would not get anger easily even though the situation warrants so. Our conscious practice may bring the subconscious mind under control during that particular period. Everybody is doing daily spiritual practices for years, but they are not successful in the act of bringing the subconscious mind and permanent control. Even though it is useful only to a certain extent. All our spiritual practices are very good. There is no doubt about it. But there is also a wrong aspect in the spiritual practices that we hardly take notice of. It gives us a false hope that we can control the subconscious mind permanently through spiritual practices. It gives us a false hope that we can get enlightenment through the spiritual practices. If we do not have the hope, we will try other ways for the permanent remedy. Spiritual practices are very much helpful, but they are helpful only to a certain extent. After that, the same practices which gave us progress will detain us in a certain state forever. Then, after a long period only, one would come to know that he was detained in a wrong and monotonous state. Spiritual practices are good. We have to make use of them, and afterwards we have to step away from the practice. If we are unable to bring an end to the conflict between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind through our spiritual practices, then what else can we do? Next comes the way of understanding. When understanding operates, the entire problem is solved immediately. The war between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind comes to an end permanently. Only by this understanding, the lifelong war comes to an end. Such is the nature of this kind of understanding. Buddha tried so many spiritual practices. He underwent so many penances. At last he found out and realized the limitations of the spiritual practices. In a fraction of a second, he got this understanding under the Bodhi tree. This understanding is very rare because he himself attained it without the help of anyone else. But it is very simple if one is also simple, open and honest in one's approach to what enlightenment is.